So this major process of rethinking master's education that started with you. So could you give us a little bit of why did you decide to take on something that is, 80% of the school, something that others have been talking about for a while? What made you think now's the time?
So some of this was based on my experience in a law school. So in law school, most of your courses during the first year are required. And that does two things. One, it gives you a grounding in the law, and it is a way for law schools to basically set out what they think are the foundations of the study of the law and the practice of law. And then the other is that it gives you a common experience with other law students, and it leads to incredible engagement outside of class in a sense that you are now, in a sense, being inducted into this profession, right? In the very first year of law school. And I looked at the 13 master's programs we had here, and I thought 13 can't be the right number. There's no way 13 is the right number. This has got to be a product of history and accident. I don't know what the right number is, but we should at least take a look at whether it makes sense to have so many programs. That was number one. And then number two, we should try to the extent we can to have some foundational courses, because to the extent we're trying to make sure that the education school is true to the idea of being a professional school, we have an opportunity to identify what we think is the foundation of the profession, and that's really what motivated me, and I think motivated others.
Right.
But it was, not an easy thing to do.
Right. So let's go back, because one of the first things we needed to figure out is, could we even name what the core should be?
Yeah. Right. And there was an awful lot of work by an awful lot of people. Yeah, one of the most rewarding things about that was how many faculty got involved. And there are folks like Matt and Mira who did a ton of work. But there were others who rolled up their sleeves and really dug into it. And it's not an easy thing to do.
So we're continuing this process. We're clearly not at the end, but we're moving forward.
Good.
But I wonder, might have been the 3 years of your deanship, were there moments in time where you were worried that this just wasn't going to work?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The most difficult decision that we had to make along the way was deciding we were not going to go to a 2-year master's program. Do you remember we were thinking about this? Yes. So part of the reason we thought we should have 2 years was in order to have foundation courses and then allow students to specialize would take some time. But we had gone into it saying we would not go to 2 years if it was going to impose too hard a financial burden on our students.
Right.
And once we ran the numbers, it became pretty obvious that there was no way that we could do this without imposing an awful lot of debt on our students. And so that was disappointing to a lot of people, myself included. And I thought it was possible that the whole thing might go off the rails because we had gone pretty far down that road to think about what it would look like.
Right.
And we didn't have to start over, but we had to put aside a lot of the work that we had done. And that point in particular, I thought this thing might just get stopped in its tracks. But all along the way, this doesn't seem it probably won't seem real until you're in the third or fourth year of it actually happening, right?
Yeah. Well, there's been, like I said, a great deal of progress, new courses, new supports, because we're piloting so many things. Some things are already, students are getting to benefit from.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. 240 students took How People Learn over the summer.
Started. Oh, yes. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, really fantastic.
Yeah.
So, a big part of being a leader is managing change, and nothing, I think, is going to change the school so dramatically as the redesign. Looking back now, do you have any advice or lessons learned about, you have to be a cheerleader, you have to give inspiration, you have to calm fears, and just anything, that you've taken away from that experience?
Two things. One is that I think you have to recognize that change takes the time that change needs. And I know that sounds nonsensical at one level, but what I mean by that is the bigger the change, the more time it's going to take. And you can't rush it. All you can do is decide whether you're going to spend the time on the front end, planning, getting people to buy in, or you're going to spend time on the back end, cleaning up and explaining to people because you rushed it.
Yeah.
But if you look at the number of hours you're going to spend working on it, it's going to be, I think, it's going to be the same. And my strong preference, and I think this process bears this preference out, is to spend more time on the front end. I mean, and there are, I think, a number of people who felt, with some justification, this is taking a really long time. Mm-hmm. There are other people who thought, why are we rushing into this? But I think if you spend that time, it's well worth it. That's number one. Number two, you have to involve faculty. I mean, at the end of the day, if they're not interested in it and excited by it, it's not going to work. And you know that. Yes. And you reminded me of that all the time. And it was great. It really was great advice. This is not something that you can just impose on the faculty. So having them be involved in the design of it, I think, is the key to making it successful.